So, you've heard all about the AI revolution, right? Well, it's all being built inside these massive, power-hungry data centers. It's a gold rush, creating incredible opportunities. But here's the thing. There's a critical risk tied to every single dollar being invested, and it's a risk most people are completely overlooking. Let's get into it. And we're not talking small numbers here. We're talking about an infrastructure boom that's on track to become a $1 trillion a year industry before the end of this decade. That's trillion with a T. The scale is just mind-boggling. So yeah, the AI data center gold rush is officially on, and you better believe everyone wants a piece of the pie. Investors are just flooding in, trying to stake their claim in what's become the literal backbone of our entire digital economy, from cloud storage to training the next generation of AI. Okay, so we've thrown around this huge number, $1 trillion. But what does that actually look like on the ground? Well, the numbers that define this demand are, well, they're staggering. Okay, take a look at this chart with me. It tells a really powerful story about that demand. Now, if you look at that first bar, vacancy rates, they've plummeted to below 2% in the hottest markets. I mean, these places are basically completely full. And what happens when something's that scarce? You guessed it. Look at the second bar. Wholesale rents have just exploded, soaring by more than 50% since 2021. The pressure on this market is just immense. And of course, all these new data centers, they need power. A ton of power. We're talking about a doubling in electricity demand by 2030, an extra 945 terawatt hours. Now, to give you some perspective on what that number actually means, that's roughly the entire amount of electricity that a country like Japan uses today, just for the new data centers. It's a massive, massive engineering challenge. What? Amid all this excitement, all this money pouring in, there's a threat lurking just under the surface. It's the kind of thing that's often totally underestimated, until it's way, way too late. And that threat? It lies in something called operational technology, or OT for short. Now, this isn't your usual IT software we're talking about, like your email or spreadsheets. No, OT is the hardware and software that controls the physical stuff inside the data center. Think power distribution, industrial scale cooling systems, physical security, all of it. It's basically the industrial nervous system of the entire facility. For the longest time, when we talked about data center reliability, it was all about the physical stuff, right? The things you see on the left here. Redundant power feeds, backup generators, extra cooling units. It was a purely mechanical engineering problem. But today, the game has completely changed. New reliability, as you see on the right, is all about cybersecurity. It's about defending the network-connected systems that actually keep all that super expensive hardware running. And this old joke, it just perfectly illustrates how automated these places have become. You've probably heard it. The future factory will have just a man and a dog. The man is there to feed the dog, and the dog is there to keep the man from touching anything. Well, that's not a joke anymore. It's literally the reality for modern data centers. They're often run completely remotely, with hardly anyone on site. And while that's incredibly efficient, it also makes them uniquely vulnerable. And this is where things get, well, kinda scary. It's a huge irony, really. The very systems that were designed to guarantee that legendary 5 nines of uptime, 99.999% reliability, those can be turned against the facility. They can be weaponized. And when it comes to AI, the stakes are just through the roof. The GPUs that power these massive models, they are unbelievably sensitive. If you interrupt their cooling for just a few seconds, they can overheat and be permanently fried, gone. We're talking millions of dollars in hardware just poof, gone in an instant. So let's play this out. What happens if an attacker gets control of that OT system? Well, for starters, they could instantly fry those GPUs we just talked about, destroying the core value of the data center. But it gets worse. Think about the downstream impact. They could disrupt a surgery that's relying on real-time data from that center. They could freeze up the entire financial market mid-trade, or even knock out mission-critical defense communications. The ripple effect is just enormous. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Okay, this sounds bad, but is it really happening? And the answer is yes. This is not some sci-fi scenario. Attacking operational technology has been a very successful strategy for adversaries for over a decade now. Just look at this timeline. Back in 2010, you had the Stuxnet worm, which physically destroyed Iranian nuclear centrifuges just by manipulating their control systems. Fast forward to 2015, attackers caused massive blackouts across Ukraine by getting into the power grid's OT. And then in 2017, the Triton malware was specifically designed to sabotage a Saudi petrochemical plant. The playbook for attacking physical infrastructure through cyberspace, it's already been written, tested, and proven. So this begs the question, right? Why isn't everyone talking about this? Well, a big part of the problem is this false sense of security. A lot of these facilities rely on these predictable annual stress tests. The same vendor comes in, runs the same tests, checks a box for the insurance company, and everyone feels safe. But that does almost nothing to prepare for a creative, motivated attacker. The smartest operators, they know this, and they're moving to continuous testing with lots of different partners to stay ahead of the curve. Okay, so given these insane risks, how should an investor even approach this tidal wave of capital? Well, there's a new playbook for due diligence, one that goes way beyond the balance sheet to figure out what these assets are really worth. Here they are, the 4 crucial questions every single investor needs to be asking. Number 1, how often are you actually doing cyber assessments, and who's doing them? Is it the same old thing every year? Number 2, are your operational systems truly air-gapped? Are they physically and digitally sealed off from the outside world? Number 3, tell me your specific response plan. What happens second by second when you detect an intrusion? And finally, number 4, if you're using AI to manage the facility itself, how are you protecting that AI from being turned against you? These are the questions that get to the heart of real, actual resilience. At the end of the day, the winners in this trillion-dollar boom, they're not going to be the ones who just see these places as fancy real estate with a bunch of servers inside. No. The winners will be the ones who truly understand that a modern data center is a complex industrial system, and its value is directly tied to its cyber-physical defense. And that brings us to the final and maybe most important question you should be asking, whether you're an investor, a customer, anyone. Is your data center just promising uptime based on old-school engineering, or can it actually prove its resilience against the very real, very modern cyber threats of today? Because in the AI gold rush, that difference, well, it could be everything.